Okay, so welcome back, everybody. So, yesterday we got to take a look at how to set up the company file. Okay, so now today, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how to customize QuickBooks into either we modify our preferences or we can modify the company's preferences. And then we're also going to take a look at setting up our items, okay? And then there's also other lists that we can also set up. So that's pretty much the, summary of what we're going to be learning today. Now, there's a few crucial points that you do need to know, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So first things first is what are preferences? Preferences are pretty much anything that you want to set to your liking. The best thing about having preferences is that it allows you to either display things that you want or organize the file according to how you want it to be. Now, there are two types of preferences, a user preferences and the company preferences. So for a user preference, right, that's going to be based on whoever is using the actual file. So most cases, like whatever desktop that you are using. So if you're in an office and you have your own personal work computer, that's going to be considered your desktop and it's going to be your user profile. Okay. Now, if you are accessing the company file, which that means every person in the office has access to this file, then you're making a change that goes for the whole entire file. And it goes through and it makes sure that it updates everybody's computer instead of just only yours. So that's the difference between the two different preferences. So if you notice when we were going through the setting up the account numbers, we had to toggle between two different profiles, right? So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be taking a look at how we can customize QuickBooks to our liking, and also customize the QuickBooks as an overall company decision. So let's go ahead and start with user preferences. So once again, we talked about how we can create multiple users, right? So yesterday we got to take a look at creating the human resources version of their profile, their user, the way that they get to log in and they can access the file themselves and they get certain specific parts that they can see or access. Now in this case, I am using the admin. Okay, so under the admin, right, as the accountant, you can do whatever you'd like. So once again, if we're looking at user preferences, if I'm the accountant, right, and I want to make changes to what I want so that every time I log into my my profile, I can save whatever I'd like to save as part of what I feel is most comfortable for me. So the great thing about having these preferences is usually for aesthetics, or if you don't want something to appear on the QuickBooks profile or interface, then you can do so. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can set up our user preferences. So very first thing that we have here is if you go up to your edit on the menu bar, you could see that if you go all the way down to the very last thing, you have preferences. So if you click on that, so this is what I'm talking about. Anything that you want to change, right? You have the list of the topics, or what do you call it, sections, or things that you want to, they're categorized, okay, by certain little sections. And notice this thing here. At the very, very top of the bar, you have my preferences and then you have company preferences. So user and my, because user preferences, right? Whoever's using the profile, it becomes my preferences. And then company preferences are an overall change through the entire company file. Everyone's going to see this, okay? Now, as far as user preferences, right? You are actually, if you take a look at every single one of them, some of them will have things, some of them will not. So, for example, this one doesn't have anything. This one has something, right? This one has something here, and this one has something here. Now, you want to be very careful, or actually, go through them because as you go through them, there's a few details that you may or may not need. But once again, this is going to be on the whoever is currently logged into the computer and using the profile. Okay, so again, some of these could be useful for you. There's a huge difference, especially when it comes between. Usually, especially when we're looking at user preferences versus company preferences, some of them are more geared towards what you like versus the company, right? There's slight differences on what you can and cannot do. So, for example, right, we talked about this one, right? This one doesn't have anything, but if I click on company, okay. Now I'm a user. So on my preferences, there's something there, but on company, there isn't something there. And then if I go to accounting, right, you can look at the preferences that the company has versus the preferences that you have. You don't have any preferences. So there's a few things that you may or may not be able to change, and there are going to be some slight differences between the two profiles. However, the one thing that the book wants to tell you is how to customize it to your liking. Now, if you go to desktop view, okay? So under my preferences, this is what you can see here. Under company preferences, it's completely something different. Now let's go ahead and tackle one thing at a time. So let's take a look at user preferences or my preferences. So the very, very, very first thing that you have here is how would you like to view your windows, okay? One window at a time or multiple windows at one time. Now, the difference between the two depends on how you manage or how you enter in your data. If you prefer to only enter data one window at a time or look only at one, or when you're entering in a transaction, you only want to look at one window at one time, then that's what you would prefer, right? Instead of having go through every single window, then, clicking on the one window would be the most preferred for you. Now, if you're a multitasker and you like to view multiple things simultaneously, then multi-window view would be the best preference for you. Now, I'm going to show you the difference between the two. So I'm going to go ahead and select one window, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, notice this. It will automatically maximize whatever transaction that you're trying to attempt to do. Now notice this. So if I'm on my homepage right now and let's say I click to enter a bill, okay? That means I can only enter a bill. I can't do anything else unless I close out the window, okay? And then now I'm clicking something else. So here's my bill. I can't do anything until I close out that window. Okay, so X, right? Now I'm at my homepage. All right, if I need to write what am I doing? Oh, if I need to write a check, or this is my check register, click OK. I can only view one at a time. Now, this is for if you are an avid user of QuickBooks, this is a real preference because sometimes taking a look at one window at one time can be manageable and it automatically maximizes the window for you. if I were to click on other things, let's say if I want to click on this, right, it will view only one thing at a time. Okay, now once again, this could be something that you like to prefer, but the one thing that you can't do is you can't jump from transactions to transactions to transactions, or jump from window to window. You can only look at one at a time, right? You're gonna have to go back to the home page, then back to entering your bills. So this one, once again, it's a user preference. Do you prefer to work at one window at one time? Now, most cases in an accounting office, you're more likely to have multiple windows or multiple screens, even like what do you call it? Multiple monitors. So you'd be able to look at your bill and then be able to enter it on the other screen. So in this case, once again, it depends on how comfortable the person is using QuickBooks and if they're able to complete the task using one window at a time. But most cases, right, it's automatically defaulted to having multiple windows, because in reality, when you are working in an office setting, you definitely want to be a little more productive than versus having only one window at one time. So let's go ahead and change that preference back real quick, and I'll show you the difference on having that little slight difference change, or that modification. So if I have multiple windows, I can have my home page open. I can have a bill open. I can also have an invoice open. So let me click on the bill, right? I could have an invoice open as well, right? And if let's say, I need to look at my bill tracker, or let me see, my bill tracker to see what kind of bills I have to pay. All right, I can view them as many windows at one time, right? Now, the only difficult thing is depending on how big your screen is, because if you don't have a big screen, you're going to have to shrink the windows to accordingly on how you be able to view them. So some of them can shrink to different sizes. So in this case, this one won't be able to shrink, but you're able to look at multiple windows at one time. And because you're able to see like the titles or something, you can have your home page, you can have your bill, and you can have your invoice. Now, of course, you can't enter them in simultaneously. You can only look at one window at a time. But if that's going to be something that you need to be able to view, like I look at my bill, right? And then I look at my bill tracker just to make sure what bills I have to pay. You're able to take that and type in whatever you need to do. Okay, so once again, this is usually for office work. You definitely want to have that use where you can see multiple windows, multiple screens, just because sometimes like it's hard to memorize anything these days, right? If I said I owe $25, right? Who do I owe? Well, I got to go check that up, right? So in this case, multiple windows is usually definitely more productive in an office standpoint. But again, if you're doing this at home and you're a more avid user and you can do this one window at one time, then yes. Now, the only default here is that once you have your multi-windows selected, you can't see the whole thing, okay? It's just like my home page. You can't see the whole thing. You would have to either double tap the title bar for it to maximize the screen. All right? But therefore, I can't see the rest of my other stuff. So you would have to either go up here and you have the three little functions, right? Minimize, shrink the screen, or close it out. You would have to do that to be able to view the rest of your windows. So in functionality, multi-windows would be preferable, because sometimes, once again, if you're doing multiple transactions and you need to view multiple windows, let's say you need to view a report at one time, then that would be the primary functionality of it. But right, once again, depending on how big your screen is going to determine how accessible you're able to view your windows. So that's the difference between one window and multi-windows. Okay. So once again, that is definitely a key preference when you are working in the office. Okay, so I'm going to close out my windows here and take a look at my homepage. Okay. So the next set of preferences is going to be how I want to save my work. All right. So there are a few options that you have here. First one is save when closing. So let's say you are the human resources, right? And let's say I decide that I'm currently working on payroll. When you exit QuickBooks, right, by clicking on this little section here to save when you are closing, basically means when the next time you open up QuickBooks, it's going to pick up from where you left off. It's going to automatically pull up the payroll window. Now, that's only best use if you have your own separate computer. Now, if you're in an office and you have shifts, then that's definitely not recommendable, okay? Especially because it takes time to open up the profile, and if it's opened up every single window that you created or you are working on, right? Then the person that's going to come in after you and enters in their user code, they have to close down all the windows. Now, once again, desktop means it's the actual computer, not the actual user, not the actual profile, okay? So whatever's on the desktop, okay, no matter who uses it, right? If my HR uses it, my sales representative, or my inventory manager, whoever uses this exact desktop is going to see whatever the preferences are for, okay? And they're going to be saved to the desktop, okay? So once again, this is if you do end up saving your work, right? You want to be very careful on who's the next person that is going to be using the computer if you don't have a single user using the computer. If you have multiple people using them, you definitely don't want other people to take a look at your transactions, okay? Because then ultimately anybody can come in and kind of fraud them, right? Now, also you could set the restrictions once again. So if you're having your AHR be only strictly seeing just payroll, but they have checking available, you know, inventory managers, they have access to the checking as well, but they don't have access to the payroll. So you want to, that's what I mean by saving your windows. You definitely want to make sure that if you're the sole user of the computer, that's completely fine, especially when, okay, I'm done with my 8-hour shift. When I come back, I don't want to have to restart all over again. I want to come back to the computer and it's going to automatically pop up where I left off. Then that will be most useful for you. Okay? Other things that I want to also see here is that if you have multiple people use your computers, then you definitely want to click Don't Save my work on my desktop. Okay? So then, once again, if you have multiple people using it, you definitely want to click on the preference to not to save it. Okay? And then we also have save current desktop. So once again, that's the same thing as saving when you're closing, but current is going to be whatever you're using on the current user, right? Then we have a few things that we want to also take a look here is that do you want to show the home page every single time you open up QuickBooks? That is definitely a perfect go-to, especially when you have multiple people using your computer. Because the great thing here is that it automatically pulls up at pretty much, like I've mentioned before, right? We talked about the home page. It's a graphic depiction of how a flow of a transaction works. So if this is something that you can save to have every time you open up QuickBooks, then you know you can easily enter in your transactions right away. So definitely that's something you definitely want to check mark and have that in mind. Okay. Now, this next one, it says switch to colored icon bars. So I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes here. So I'm going to skip this one real quick. All right, because this pretty much talks about the icon bar. And I'll show you what that does if you prefer to use that, okay? Now, other things that you have here is that you have also how you want to display QuickBooks and how you want the sounds to produce. These are directly correlated to your actual computer settings. So, for example, if I click sounds, right, it's going to automatically tap into my actual Windows, right, my actual operating system, and it's going to make those changes. So this right here is a feature that comes with my computer. So that's definitely something that you want to also take a look at too. So these things right here isn't necessarily for the user profile. It is for the actual desktop itself. So I can change the display, like if I want the screen to be zoomed in, maximize a certain percentage, or maybe I want it to be shrunken down. Different color schemes, right? Nowadays, with your new operating system, you can view it light and dark mode. Okay, so yes, displays is going to, that's exactly what it's going to be. How you want it, the information to display, you want it 100%, etc., etc. Okay, and then last but not least, we have color schemes. Now, I'm going to tell you this. This is probably one of the most useless things that you can do. And how? I'm going to go ahead and show you. So notice this. You like my color scheme? This is called the default settings for QuickBooks, right? Because QuickBooks is green and they use navy blue to kind of, it's usually user-friendly to the eyes. All right. And then, so let's go ahead and take a look at, if I want to make it customized, let's say I want to make it so then every time I open up my profile, I get to see pink. So we'll click on pink. Notice this. The only thing that changes is just the title bar. That's it. That's exactly why I think it's the most useless thing, because you don't get to change your icon bar. You don't get to change this. See, this still stays green, right? It's still gonna stay green. This is actually, like I said, this is actually not the most useful thing that I would say QuickBooks has to offer. It doesn't give you certain modes. You can't do black and white. You can't do anything in regards to that. That's the only customizable thing, is that if you want to make a color setting, that's as much as it can do for you. So in this case, once again, changing the color doesn't even matter at this point, right? Now, most cases, a lot of companies, they would do this because, when you go into business, right, you want to make some kind of unique statement by saying, okay, my company colors, right? Every company has a color. And so, for example, I can say my company color is red, right? Boom. Okay. Now, again, as a user preference, I don't like red. I actually prefer something like a nice purple blue. Okay? And there you go. See, that's as much as you can do when it comes to customizing QuickBooks for colors. So, it's not the greatest. And, honestly, you're better off with just leaving the default settings, because at this point, it doesn't even matter. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So that's usually what the desktop view is. It's just showing you what you can do that's slightly different when it's customizing your particular profile. And that's as much as you can do. Okay? Any questions here? Okay. All right. All right, so the next topic we're going to talk about is company preferences. Now, company preferences, there's actually a lot that you can do, right? Every single section or every single topic. If I need to look at my sales tax under company preferences, yes. Under company preferences, right? Boom. You have pretty much, you should have basically every single tab you have here should be you should be able to access a company preference. So if I want to be dealing with, let's see, my payroll, right? I can change my company preferences. Now, once again, this is usually meant for the admin, okay? The admin should be able to have full control and full access to be able to make these overall changes to the profile for the whole company. So that means if I make a change on the company file, that means anybody who accesses that file will have those changes automatically set for them. Okay. Now, of course, in order for you to be able to be successful for that, you have to be on a single user mode, and the admin must make that change, save it, right, by clicking that OK button, and then open it back up to multi-user mode. Okay. So again, some of these things we have talked about, that these preferences are pretty much going to be things that we compile our together when we did the Easy Step interview. Okay, this is going to be also how you actually customize pretty much your transactions. Okay, because you're telling QuickBooks exactly how the company file should look like, or how the company file is going to how you want to enter your transactions. Like, for example, right, if I'm dealing with just bills and bills only, then I need to make sure I set my settings to those types of things. If I'm dealing with sales, right, once again, I talked about sales tax. You need to be able to enter in your sales information. So especially when you need to either electronically transfer the money that you've put away for making payments to the government, right? Because sales tax is one of those things that that's the money that you do not own. It's an obligation that you must acquire from your customers, right? You are in charge of receiving all that money from your customers for selling a product. It isn't your money. So this is how you set it up, okay? So once again, company preferences are geared towards making a change to the overall company file that everybody has access to. Okay. And we'll go ahead and talk more in depth about these, company preferences. So once again, the company preferences, right, they're usually toggled either through the Easy Step interview, or you could go to your edit preferences. Okay. So we talked about that. So next is we're going to go ahead and take a look at how you can change your company preferences. But in this case, let's go more specifically to how you can actually customize the home page. Okay. So once again, let's take a look at the home page, right? There are a few things that you can customize in regards to certain transactions that you may or may not want to have appear on your home page. So let's take a look at here. We have statement charges and statements. Now, of course, if you're not the person who's in charge of invoicing or AR, so accounts receivable, right? maybe this section is not something for you. So we can go ahead and change this so that it doesn't appear on my window. I go to Edit Preferences, Desktop View, Company Preferences, and here you only have basically a couple things that you can do. You could choose to select the statements and statement charges, right? And if, let's say I don't want to do sales receipts, okay? And I'm going to go ahead. Oh, excuse me. Actually, no. Let's keep sales receipts. Let's go ahead and click OK. Now, once you do that, you're going to get this pop-up window. And you're going to click OK. So your home page has disappeared now because, check it out. The next time I open up my home page, boom, this whole section has been taken out. Okay, so that's like pretty much what you can do for customizing your home page. Once again, when we went through the Easy Step interview, by answering all of those questions, we are essentially creating the home page. So if you remember, right, when we said that we want to keep track of time, that's why we have the time button here, okay? Other things, right, such as, do you keep track of your bills? So therefore, you have your bills icon here. We said that, do you charge sales tax? That's why we have a sales tax button right here, okay? So there's a lot of things that we're kind of relating into the question. So I'm going to take another example here. So if I go to my Edit Preferences, right? We said that we have inventory, okay? Which is this whole section here, right? Purchase, receiving the items, and then receiving bill against those items. If I go ahead and say, I'm scrapping the idea, I don't use inventory anymore, I'm going to click on items and inventory. And if I go to my company preferences, it's right now currently checked off as, yes, I do have inventory. But if I go ahead and uncheck mark that and I click OK, and then I click OK once again, and I actually open up my home page, my whole entire inventory is gone. So once again, those were the questions that we answered, and that's exactly how we populate it, okay? So yesterday we didn't have time to take a look at creating the express start for a company. So if we have time at the end of today, I'll go ahead and show you how to do that. And once again, yes, we'll talk about that once we get down to the end of the day. Okay, so here we go. That's how you customize the home page, right? It's basically going through the Easy Step interview and check marking or unchecking the whole entire thing. Now, once again, I've also mentioned yesterday that in case you decide after you go through the interview and you change your mind, let's say you don't charge sales tax, right? You're just going to have to go ahead and unclick that you don't charge sales tax. Do you charge sales tax? No. All right? And then I'm going to click Save. Or then I'm going to click OK. And then notice this once again. Home page. I don't have my sales tax button anymore. It used to be right up here. I don't have it anymore. So once again, every question that we answered in the Easy Step interview, if you change your mind, you can always re-answer the question or go back and fix it through here or modify it, right? So once again, let me go ahead and unveil everything. So sales tax, company, yes, I do charge sales tax. Okay. Inventory and items and inventory, right? Yes. Okay. Okay. Right, company profile, right here. Yes, I do have inventory. And then display view. Okay. Yes, I definitely want to show my statements and statement charges. Okay. Okay. So that's pretty much for user preferences, is majority of exactly what I just talked about, is primarily customizing your home page. Okay, any questions there? So there are two ways to be able to customize your home page. One is through the Easy Step interview, right? And lastly, it's going to be through the edit preferences window. Okay. All right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be editing the menu bars. Now, I'm going to give you a pretty straightforward answer. You can absolutely not customize anything on the menu bar. Why? It's literally a list of every single transaction that exists in QuickBooks. So for you to get rid of it is probably going to be some of those things where it can hurt you as a company, right? Especially look at all the transactions that you can do. So for just company alone, look at all the transactions that you can do. And there's even arrows to even expand out your transactions even further. Okay? So definitely, you absolutely cannot, under any circumstance, modify the menu bar. So everything that you see up here, right? Customers, vendors, employees, reports, etc., right? All of those. Think about it. How can you think to modify anything in here? That's a lot of transactions that you have to deal with. And the great thing about the menu bar is you can find almost any you will find every single transaction that you can create in QuickBooks. Every single one of them. Okay? Now, of course, the menu bar, right? We talked about that you can't even customize them. Because the fact that, especially for most programs, and if not all programs, the menu bar is actually one of the most important features of any single program that you download. Because once again, it tells you and shows you all the functions that the program can do. So by you being able to modify it, that's terrible, right? Then you lose out on the capabilities of the actual program itself. So here, if you're looking for a transaction, you'd be able to, go through each tab on here on the menu bar and be able to find your transaction that you're looking for. Okay. So once again, customizing the menu bar. You absolutely cannot customize it, okay? However, you can create a favorites menu, all right? So, favorites menu, basically, what the primary use for it is to actually help you, find an easier way to have a shortcut to be able to access the transactions instantly. Now, of course, here's a funny fact. Here's a funny thing to think. You could use the favorites menu bar to create the shortcuts that you frequently use. What is the purpose of a home page if you have to rely on the favorites menu bar, right? My chart of accounts, if I put that as the first thing that I have under my favorites menu, home page has the chart of accounts, which is also another shortcut. So I honestly think that the favorites menu, once again, is a useless feature in QuickBooks. Because also another thing is, let's go ahead and customize the favorites menu, and we can go ahead and discuss more into it. So there are a few things that you need to know when it comes to the favorites menu, right? If you click on favorites right now menu, I got nothing on there, okay? Now you can choose to also hide the favorites menu, or if you don't see it in the first place, then you can actually, toggle to view it. So in this case, if I click on a view or roll over my view menu here. View one more. So view, I have what's checked mark right now here that I have my favorites menu. So if I want to hide it, then there you go. I can hide it. So once again, like I've mentioned, I think the favorites menu is pretty useless, okay? But let's go ahead and explore why it's useless, okay? So I go ahead and click that favorites menu once again just to have it appear. And to customize it again, there's only one way to customize it. You have to go to favorites and click on customize the favorites menu. Okay? So as I just done that, now this is what the window will look like. It's going to pretty much be a list of every single transaction, right? According to each little tab, right? Here, the list tab, right? So if I go to list, this is what appears under it, okay? If I go to, let me see what else I was going to do. If I go to the next tab, which is company, right? This is every single transaction that's underneath the tab. So that's why it's kind of easy for you to be able to find it, but also this is one of the reasons why it's pretty useless. All right, so let's say I want to add in my chart of accounts because my chart of accounts is important, okay? Let's see what else is important. Let's see. Maybe my, my calendar should be something important. My home page should also probably be something that's important. Let's see, keep going. So I'm just creating my list right now. Maybe a to-do list is definitely something that could be very, very useful to me. Okay. Let's see. Reminders. Ooh, where did you see that? Reminders. Yes, that's probably perfect. Good, right? So here I'm creating my favorites list right now. Now, of course, if I want to, let's say my home page is probably going to be the most important thing that I want to have there. So using the move up and move down, you can basically select the items, and then I want home page to be the first thing on my list. Okay, maybe the chart of account. Maybe I'll do calendar as second, reminders as third, and my to-do list as fourth, and leave my chart of accounts at the very end. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and click OK. So the next time I go ahead and visit my favorites menu, there it is, right? I have my home page as first, calendar, reminders, to-do list, and my chart of accounts. Now, as much as I hate to say this, but how hard is it? Look at my chart of accounts, right? How hard is it to just go over one more over and find the chart accounts right there? Okay? That is why I think the favorites menu is useless, because you can, like I said, if you have chart of accounts as one of your favorites, how hard is it to just go one more over and it's right at the top of the list? Okay. So once again, this could be, it's a preference, obviously, especially if you are if that's a frequent thing that you're using. Now, my reminders and my to-do list, they're not easily accessible, right? Unless I actually go to my company and be able to find it. Here it is, my to-do list, my reminders, right? But once again, how much more difficult is it to go from the favorites menu and, moving your mouse over one? It's not that difficult. Again, in this sense, it's kind of like your quick access toolbar that you can access when you're doing Excel, right? At least that's a little more convenient because it's at the very, very top of the window, and it allows you to do your transactions instantly, right? Or doing the functions instantly. In this one's kind of useless because everything is already listed. You just have to just take the time to go through each menu and locate it. So that's pretty much the only thing that you can do for a favorites menu bar. And once again, you can't do any other transactions that's beyond the menu bar. Remember, if you remember by when we customized it, it's basically taking anything that you see on each menu in each menu list. So, once again, that's the only thing you could do when it comes to customizing your menu bar is to only be able to create a favorites menu, which once again, I think it is the most useless thing you can do on QuickBooks. Okay? There's no point to create one when you can just simply just roll your mouse over and find the transaction. You know, you might be able to find it instantly too. Okay? So once again, that's the only thing that you can do when you're customizing your your menu bars. Okay? Any questions there?
Well, for me that I don't know much about it at all,
Mm-hmm.
the favorites will work because then I can find my stuff right away in there,
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
and
so
instead of,
mm-hmm.
I mean, it'll make it easier.
So definitely, it's definitely for something that favorites menu. Once again, it is a user preference. So if it's easier to be able to locate the transactions, right? So for example, right, since I had my to do list, right, right there, it's like the couple things down. Instead of having to go to company and having to read every single one until you find the to do list, yes, that's the only thing that I would think would be the most
Yeah,
helpful if instead of having to go through each and every single menu, right, to find
yeah,
your
because I don't,
transactions.
yeah,
Exactly. So it's definitely based on also how much
management.
you use
Yeah,
and accessibility. Yes. So
okay.
if it's if you're not an avid user of QuickBooks, the favorites menu is definitely something that you can absolutely create based on however you deem is necessary. Now, of course, the favorites menu you can go as long as you'd like, but just remember that if you utilize the favorites menu, you make your list extremely long. You're pretty much defeating the purpose of creating the favorites list when you have the rest of the menus. So
Yeah,
favorites is only basically deemed for just the actual transactions that you frequently use. Okay, so definitely, yeah.
yeah.
hmm
Okay. Thank you.
hmm So, any questions? Any questions at all? Okay. So then the next section that the book is teaches you is going to be customizing your icon bar. Okay? So here the icon bar is this left blue panel over here. Now, let's talk about how you can actually view it, see it, etc., because there are a few things that you can do when you're customizing the actual icon bar. Okay? So once again, the icon bar, as you can see, there's a few things that are actually pretty useful. And these are just, once again, they're just shortcuts to the actual center or, the actual center. Like the center is basically an overall place. So for example, right, I've talked about the, the income tracker, right? It just shows you what you want to show you. Other than that, when you go to customers, it's just going to take you to the customer center. It doesn't do the transaction, it just takes you to the place for you to create your transactions. Okay? Or what you can do is set on here is if you want to have a calendar, you can have a calendar, to do list, reminders, right? These, once again, are shortcuts to the actual thing. It doesn't allow you to enter in any transactions, okay? So let's take a look at this. You can even search a transaction if you need to. All right. Here you see this little arrow button. If you click on that, it's going to shrink it up so you can have more viewing space on your window. Okay. And again, you'd be able to access it by clicking that arrow button once again. So that's one way that you can hide your icon bar. Okay. If you go to the view menu, you can also hide your icon bar by clicking hide icon bar. So there, it doesn't even exist, okay? Because sometimes the icon bar can be deemed, kind of useless too, because if you can access all of those things on the home page, what's the point of, taking up more space on the window when I can take that extra space to go ahead and compute my transactions. But in this case, the icon bar is going to be one of the most important key interface features because it's one of the main three. You only have the home page, the menu bar, and the icon bar. Okay? So once again, I have two options. I can choose to either have it left on the left side of the window, or I can actually view it as the top menu. Now notice this. This is what I'm going to talk about now when I talked about the user preference. Look at this. It still has the same blue ribbon, and it has the icons, they're like, I guess they're like a white, light blue color. So notice this, okay? That is, you can actually toggle this as a user preference if you'd like to change it. Now, once again, if you have it viewed like this, you can easily, let's go here, I'll show you. So if I go ahead and click on that edit preferences, okay? And I decide to go ahead and click on that desktop view and select switch to colored icons when the icon bar is at the top. So if I go ahead and click OK, notice this, now my ribbon is a light blue color or a light gray color, and now each icon has colors. Okay, that's the only difference I wanted to wait to show you for this, because that's one way you can customize your icon bar, is changing the colors and features on it. Okay, now if you decide that you don't need to use it at the top of the window anymore and you prefer it to have on the left panel, okay, so the left side, it reverts automatically back to the same thing. It doesn't keep the colored features, which is one of the things that QuickBooks can't do. So that is going to be one feature. So it can only happen when you have it set for the top of the bar. Okay. So once again, these are shortcuts to help you enter in your transactions, but it isn't transactions themselves. All right. So few things that we want to see is so we just got to take a look at how you can customize the icon bar. So they do say go to the edit menu. Okay. I'm sorry. Go to view. Customize the icon bar. Okay. That's one way of doing it. The quick and easiest way is anywhere on the icon bar, right click it, and you can customize it. Okay, so two ways. View on the menu bar, customize the icon bar, or right click anywhere on the icon bar, and it will give you the options to customize. Okay. So again, this is definitely a user preference, okay? Because you get to customize the icon bar how you want to view the items. So if you notice this real quick, this little window right here, this is the icon bar right now. I have my chart of accounts, I have my home page at the very, very top. And then I have other things down here too. So one thing that the QuickBooks wanted to show you was that let's go ahead and add another icon on here. So I'm going to go and click add, and now you're going to get a second window that pops up that allows you to take a look at all the shortcuts that exist in QuickBooks. All right, so here we can do, let's see, we could do bill tracker, which is already in our list. You could do chart of accounts. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select chart of accounts, and it's going to give you the options to pick the icon. So chart of accounts. This is, I think that's a good one right here. I'm going to choose that one. And then it gives you the, what you want to call it. Do you want it to call it accounts? Do you want to actually call it chart of accounts? Do you want it to say COA, right? Again, it's whatever you want to do. So in this case, I'm going to say COA, chart of accounts. Straightforward. Okay, and it's going to be also known as description is going to be chart of accounts. I'm going to click OK. So now that's added into my actual icon bar. Let's add another feature. So another one that we can do is calculator. So this is going to be in alphabetical order, every single shortcut that you can do. So calculator is pretty nifty, right? That's definitely something you have to use when you are dealing, as an accountant. You should definitely have a calculator. So now it's automatically seeing that, okay, well, here's the calculator icon. You can select the other ones, but that seems the most recognizable is this little calculator icon. Now notice this, it says calc. No, I want it to display the full word calculator. Okay? And then I go ahead and click OK. Now notice this, every time I keep adding to my chart of accounts, to my icon bar, it's actually putting everything down below or down, at the very bottom of the list. So exactly like I've mentioned yesterday, there's this little black dot, okay? And this black dot is going to allow you to click and drag wherever you want your stuff to appear. So in this case, I want my chart of accounts to appear at the very top of my window. Well, I want home page first. And then I want my chart of accounts to come second. And then I think, a calculator should be one of those items that you should actually be able to access immediately. So I'm going to put that right under my chart of accounts. Okay. I'm also going to deem my, my company. I'm going to put that probably down below. Because I think an income tracker and a bill tracker is definitely going to be more useful. In fact, I can even get rid of my icon right here for my company, right? I could just click delete and boom, it got rid of it, okay? You can also add spaces in between. Now the spaces in between, they're not that visible, I would say, but they do, kind of separate your icons just slightly. Again, if it's necessary for you, then add it. If it isn't, then you don't need to. But here, so how I want my icon bar to display is going to be my home page first, then my chart of accounts, and then my calculator. And notice this on my left side, it's automatically editing it and showing me, displaying exactly how it should look. And once I am satisfied on how my chart of accounts look, I keep saying chart of accounts, my icon bar looks, I can go ahead and go down to the bottom and click OK. So notice this, now everything's set in stone. I have my home page here, my chart of accounts, and if I click on it, it's going to automatically take me to my chart of accounts. Same thing with the calculator. A little mini calculator will appear like that. Okay. So once again, this is only useful for however you want to use it for, but I'm going to go ahead and let's switch it to the top bar. So once again, the icons that I've actually selected were there. Now, I would think this would be the most productive or at least useful way because it allows you to maximize your screen. But it's also a downside too because if I can go to my customer center, right? Or yeah, that's one of the things I can do, right? Is go to my customer center, right? I can easily do that by just going to the customer's menu at the top. Okay, so once again, the icon bar, it's definitely more useful to you if it's on the left side because you're able to access it instead of having it right at the top where, again, essentially you can access the same stuff through the menu bar. But once again, it's also definitely useful, especially if you're looking at space. Because once again, if you're having multi-windows viewing capabilities, you want to be able to maximize your window, and that, takes up a bit, pretty much a nice chunk of the window itself by having your icon bar on the left panel. But once again, especially if you prefer it to be up at the top, it's also a good thing too. Now, don't forget, we also have that idea where we don't have to have the icon bar unless we just want to display it. Or if it's on the left side, you can hide it using this little icon right here, and you'd be able to do whatever transactions you need to do. And if you need a quick access, you just click this and whatever item you need. Okay, so once again, the icon bar is going to be definitely something that is very important, especially when we deal with transactions, because once again, it is one of the three main interfaces. It's the one of the three things that you need to be able to know because again, a shortcut is a way to enter in a transaction. Okay, the home page, right? Maybe not everything on the home page can be displayed, right? You don't have your calendar on there. Actually, you do, but you don't have a calculator on there. Okay. All right. Any questions in regards to customizing the icon bar?
No questions.
Okay. All right. So okay, so let me go ahead and close out some of my windows here. Okay. So I don't need this. I don't need that either. But I definitely want my home page to always stand there. Okay. All right. So icon bar, we talked about customizing the home page, customizing the menu bar, and customizing the icon bar. Okay. So the next section we have is going to be introducing you to lists. Okay. So when we talk about lists, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at them. Okay. If you go up to your lists on your menu bar, you're going to notice that when it drops down, these are going to be considered lists that you have to create. So we got to take a look yesterday on how to create my chart of accounts list. Okay. Today we're going to be learning on how to access the items list. An items list is basically going to break down anything that is going to be revolving your sales process. So we'll talk about that in a second on the different item types and what they have to offer. Okay. We also have what's called a fixed asset list. So once again, when you're entering in, making purchases of your fixed asset, that's where they all go. Price level list. Okay, that's something that we're going to mention today. Price level list is basically when you have specific customer groups. Okay, you can create or define a specific price level. So a great example is your residential customers versus your commercial customers. Obviously, the difference between a residential and a commercial is going to be the money. Your residentials are not going to be willing to pay for a product or service if it's at an extremely high price, right? Because of the whole supply and demand, right? But for a corporation who has the billions and billions and billions of dollars, you can expect that you're able to charge like commercial, meaning any large company, business, hotels, whatever it is, right? You can charge them at a higher level. So a great example would be, right, if you're a laundromat store, right? You can charge your daily customers that are your local residents or your local, yeah, anybody that's a customer, right? You can charge them at a low rate of $25, right, per item that you want to have cleaned. Where a corporation, such as, let's say, Cosmopolitan, they sponsor or they use your laundromat to go ahead and clean all their uniforms. You can expect that you can charge them, hey, if you're going to use me, I have to drive out to your place. We're doing loads of laundry, so I'm going to charge you $100 per item we clean. And of course, Cosmo's going to be like, absolutely, you're the cheapest one so far. I'm going to use your services, or maybe you have great customer service, whatever it is, right? Because once again, the difference between the price levels is you're charging a customer that's a resident a lower price because it's based on supply and demand and what a customer is willing to pay. Versus a commercial, right? A large company that's using your services, you can go ahead and charge them a higher pricing because of the large amounts and whatever your services entails. Okay, so that's what price levels are. Now again, it's not super important to set up for this just because as a small company, again, we're only looking at QuickBooks in a small company's perspective, right? If you are the owner of the company or you're working for a small company, so price levels is going to be something you're probably not going to frequently look at unless you're like a corporation that not only expands to larger companies but also to smaller individuals. Like you serve the companies and you also serve the public. Okay, but once again, you're probably not going to really use that one so well. Today, I just wanted to talk about what that is, but we're not going to go ahead and actually do anything there. Okay, we're going to talk about sales tax code. So then again, this is also going to be something that we're going to take a look at once again in chapter 3, which is next week. So sales tax code, right? When you charge your customers, you can charge them tax or not. So for example, if you're a grocery store, you get that special discount, right? Where you can't charge on food or any perishable goods, right? But you can charge based on, the items that you sell. If you are part of, the Army or the Marines, you get a special government discount, right? Or even if you are nonprofit organizations, you are also able to tax exempt specific groups of people. So once again, that's what a sales tax code is. We'll talk briefly about that more so in chapter 3, but I just wanted to make sure that we go through every single list that's on here. Payroll items list. Okay, so once again, this is something that we're going to dive into chapter 10 and 11. Payroll items list pretty much allows us to be able to create the items that we need to do payroll for, right? Straightforward. So that means listing out all of the deductions, all of the benefits, all of the federal taxes that you have to pay, all the state taxes you have to pay if there is any, and et cetera, and all the compensations that you offer. So if you do a salary, if you do hourly, if you're commission based, that's exactly where all of that stuff is going to be compiled in. Now, once again, we won't talk about that until chapter 10 or 11. Okay. Then we have class list. We're going to take a look at class list in chapter 4. So basically, and I'll give you more definition on what a class list is in chapter 4, which is tomorrow. So we'll skip that for now. Right? Other names list. So any person that isn't a customer, that isn't a vendor, or that isn't an employee is going to fall under others list or other names. Now, for example, a perfect example for an other name list would be the owner of the business, right? And we'll talk about this more so in chapter 9. Okay? Especially when you need to either, because you're the owner of the company, you need to be able to fill out your own profile. You need to have some kind of contact information, or you need to maybe pay yourself. I don't know. So the others name list is definitely going to be something that you want to keep, track of, right? If you go into a partnership, right? What are the other partners that exist that co-own the company? Okay. And then we have, let me see, what does it say? Customer and vendors. So again, this is particularly for your customers and your vendors. So this is definitely chapter 4 and chapter 2 things that we're going to be dealing with. So yes, you can have a vendor type, right? Are they commercial? Are they purely business, right? You can even have other things like terms list. So terms, right? For my accounting folks, you guys know what that means. But for those who are going to go into the accounting or don't know much, we're going to take a look about that today, what terms are, okay? And then templates, pretty much anything that when we create sales forms for, right? That's what this is. Templates is anything that we create, things that we bill out to our customers or things that we send out, so such as statements, invoices, purchase orders, right? You can customize them, okay? And we'll talk about that as well again today as well, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at items list first. So if we're looking in our book, let's go ahead and look at page 2. I think we're on 212 right now. Okay, so under your items list, you're going to notice that there's called item types. Now, this is very, 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 very important that you need to be able to memorize or know, because this key factor is basically going to determine how you conduct your sales. So here are the options here. We will discuss each one, and we'll only do a couple examples of each one. So first one is straightforward, right? You have a total of 10 items that you need to know and how to use them, okay? So each one has a pretty brief description of what they are. So a service item, straightforward, right? If you provide a specific service, you need to create that item, because if you're going to be billing your customers, you need to bill them for the service that you provided. And we're going to create a service item down below, okay? An inventory part. So once again, these things are going to be talked about in chapter 8, which is all about inventory. An inventory part is straightforward. It's any product that you sell, okay? Now, there's a few things here. Now, you have an inventory part and a non-inventory part. When we dive into chapter 8, I'll elaborate more on this. But the difference between the two, just a quick, summary of it, is that your inventory items are going to be the ones that you're frequently selling. Okay? It's the staple, whatever you want to call it. The staple item that you sell is the frequent one that you sell the most. Whereas your non-inventory parts are things that you do sell, but just not as often, okay? Then we have what's called, inventory assembly, okay? Inventory assembly. So for example, right, if I make a product, then like for example, like if I'm a bakery shop, right, and I make cakes out of scratch, right, my inventory items are going to be my eggs, milk, flour, sugar, and butter. I don't know. And what an inventory assembly does is it allows you to take those components and combine them to create a product. To create my cake, right? So therefore, I'm able to take sections or what's called measurements, units of measure, to be able to create my products. And that's exactly what you can use the inventory assembly for, is if you are in the company and you're deciding to create a product, then you can go ahead and use the inventory assembly item. So basically, you grouping them up together and you're using measurements to piece them together. Then we're also going to talk about, other charges. So other charges can include if you need to charge your customer for shipping your items out, right? That's a standard one, and we're going to take a look at that in a few minutes, right? If you need to charge your customers, right, for any reasons, like maybe they were late, you can do, that's going to be considered one of the items that you could use as an other charges, right? So anything that's shipping, handling, late charges, anything, those are going to be considered other charges. Okay, subtotals. We'll take a look at this in chapter 2. Okay, subtotals a pretty cool item. You can't set it up particularly, but the subtotal item is actually very useful, especially when you're dealing with creating your invoices. You want, instead of and we'll take a look again in chapter 2 about this, but when you use the subtotal item, it pretty much adds up all of the items. Or for example, right, if you're charging your customer 4 or 5 items, it allows you to add those all up in there, and it allows you to be able to put it on the invoice itself to show that this is the grand total that you owe me. Okay, and then we have the group item. Now, group item, we'll take a look at this again in chapter 2, because when you think about group items, it's pretty straightforward. When you sell a product or a service, in this case we sell both, right? You can use a group item to bundle up packages. So I can provide both a service and the product as well. So that's what a group item does. And once again, this we will see more of an example in chapter 2. Okay. And then we have discount items. So once again, if you have store-wide discounts, this is exactly what you're going to be able to apply on the invoices, and it shows it on the invoice. So if you've ever been to the store, right, and you buy a discounted item or something's on sale, notice on your receipt, you have it charged at the original price, and then right under it is a line item that shows you your discounted amount. That's exactly what this item is meant for. It's to show you the discount that you're taking off of the original price. So that's definitely something we will encounter again. We'll take a look about this in chapter 2. And then last but not least, we have 2 more, which is going to be the sales tax item. So once again, by the state and the county that you belong into, and you are providing products or services, right? You have to charge sales tax, okay? Unless you belong to a state that doesn't charge sales tax. And I believe there's only 5 states that do not charge sales tax. Okay. All right. And then of course a sales tax group. So today we're going to take a look at what a sales tax item is and how to create a sales tax group. Okay. Now let's go over the first one first, and then we'll go ahead and go on a break, and then when we come back, we'll continue on doing the rest. So first thing that we're going to take a look at is a service item, okay? So let's go ahead and explore how we even get to the items list, and also explore how we enter in an item, and etc., etc. So there are a total of 3 ways that you can access the items list. All right. So the very first one I've already discussed was going on the list itself, right? List at the menu, and you have items list right here. Okay. And I believe if you go to if you go to company, you have items list right here. Okay. And of course, the straightforward one is on your home page. On the right side underneath the company column, you have items and services. Okay. So those are the 3 ways that you can enter in your items list or access your items list. Okay. So here, when I click on it, this is what it looks like. Everything, all the items and products that, or whatever that is entailing your sales process is going to be listed right here. Okay. And you have descriptions of what they are. You may have some costing points. So if they cost that a specific price, you can take a look at that. Other than that, it's also, you can categorize it based on the item type it is. And of course, it looks pretty universal to exactly what we did for the chart of accounts. Now, one thing you need to have done prior before being able to create an item is you need to set up your accounts before you can create an item. So most cases here, you're going to be, every time you create an item, you're going to link it to the associated account. All right. And that's exactly how QuickBooks takes a look at your transactions, and it does the accounting behind the scenes because you're linking things together. So every time I make a sale, right? If I sold, let me see, what is this? A 5x7 frame, right? It's automatically linked to my inventory, and it's also automatically linked to my sales. Okay, and it's all and so because it's linked to it, the minute you enter in that transaction, behind the scenes is it's going to update your inventory, right? It's going to take it away from your inventory, and it's also going to update your sales because you sold the item. You sold it for money. So therefore, that's what QuickBooks does, and you need to make these extra steps in order for QuickBooks to function correctly. Okay? So in this case, you need to set up all of the associated accounts before you can start creating your items list. Okay? So once again, setting up anything that has to do with your sales. So your sales, you need to have your sales account, right? You need to have a sales discount account. You need to have a sales returns account, okay? Other than that, you also need to have your inventory account, right? What are the specific inventory items that you're going to be actually using? Once again, the purpose of having the items list is to expand or break the sales process or sales accounts that are associated with this and break it down to even more. So instead of cluttering your entire chart of accounts, right? This is just another way that you can expand, especially when you're selling products. If you're a grocery store, how many products do you sell? Right? Infinite. Okay? So that's the one thing that you have to have. You must set up your accounts before you can set up your items. And exactly how we set up the chart of accounts, the window will look similar, if not identical, right? Except the wording is a little different, right? This looks exactly like my chart of accounts, right? I got the list of my items, the names, the description, right? And at the very bottom of the window, I have my items list. So if I click on this, right, drop up menu, and it gives me all the functions that I can do when creating an item, right? I can either create a new one, edit an old one, delete an item, okay, duplicate the item. I can either activate or inactivate. So we've seen this before, right? If you don't use it, if you don't sell an item anymore, or whatever non-inventory item, right? Maybe the item that you originally sold no longer produces it, or it's become, they stopped production for it. So therefore you can no longer sell that item because you can no longer get that item. Then you can make the item inactive. Okay? So exactly how we saw our chart of accounts. You could do the exact same transaction here. You can create, edit, delete, etc. Okay? And the same thing goes here, right? You have the show inactive items list. So once again, this looks more or less same and or similar to the chart of accounts. Okay? Okay. So first things first is we're going to go ahead and start by adding in our very first item. Now there are technically 3 ways you can actually add a new item. So the one that are more apparent is going to be when you are in the items list. You have new. If you hit the items tab at the bottom, you have new, right? Exactly like before, I can right click anywhere and be able to create a new item. And the one that's actually more on the hidden aspect for this is actually going to be under your vendors menu. Now, once again, this is a hidden thing. Once again, if you are an avid user, this is definitely more, you would recognize this more so versus someone who's brand new to this. Once again, I don't think you're going to be asked this specific question. How do you enter in a new item and give me every single detail? So once again, QuickBooks is a huge program, right? There's you can enter in as many ways that you can, but what I've noticed is that you can go to the vendors menu. So this isn't one that's like straightforward. It's not clear, and your book doesn't tell you this either. You go to the vendors menu and you see inventory activities, and you'd be able to create a new item here. Okay. So again, once again, this has to be dealing with a lot of exploration when it comes to navigating QuickBooks itself, like knowing the ins and outs of it. But this is one of the hidden ways you can enter in a new item. Okay. But the more main ones that you should definitely know for sure is that once you access the items list itself, you can access it down below, right here, clicking items, or you can right click on anywhere on the items list and be able to create a new item. Okay, so once again, the book only tells you maybe 1 or 2 ways. In this class, you're going to learn every single way that we know is possible. Okay, so we're going to not only explore whatever it says in the book, we're exploring every single way to enter in a transaction, especially because when you are taking the certification exam, you should be able to know at least majority of the ways that you can enter a transaction. So as mentioned before, chapter 4, we're going to be practicing entering a bill. There's a total of 7 ways that you can enter in a bill. And your book only shows you 2. Right? So going back to this, right, I actually clicked on creating a new item. Now notice this, the first thing that's going to say is, well, what is your item type? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through, I've already gone through a few of them, so some of them we will do later on in the future. But one thing that we're going to be doing here is we're going to just go ahead and follow the book and create the first item, which is a service item. Okay, so here, every single item that you create, right? If I click on other items, such as, let's say I do an inventory part, notice that each item that you fill out is going to have specific accounts or specific things that you need to fill out. So not every single item that you do create is going to be the same. So once again, if I click group, it doesn't look the same. Okay, if I click a sales tax item, right? I'm not looking at how much, I'm looking at a rate. So each form is going to will look different for every item type that you select or that you're creating. So in this case, once again, I'm going back to service, right? Because the most important thing about a service item is that I need to create the name of the item of the service, right? So once again, if you are potentially creating a service, right? So in this case, since we are a photography type of business, right? My service here will be a photo session. Okay? Straightforward. Photo session. Okay? And then you have other things like, is it a sub item? In this case, no. All right. Yes, you can have sub items as well, but you're more better off with just creating just the item itself. So for example, if you do have a sub item, let's say I sell a particular item, right? Let's say I sell a picture frame. A sub item could be specific on what type of material it could be made out of, right? I could sell a picture frame, right? The sub item could be a metal picture frame, a wooden picture frame, a plastic picture frame. Okay, so that's all going to be under the main account, which is the picture frame itself. But if I break it down, then I can do it based on materials. And if I sell a specific item, let's say I sell my metal picture frames and then I sell my plastic picture frames, then I can go ahead and utilize the sub item for that. Now, so once again, so it's just breaking down an item even further into more specific details. And in this case, I'm just creating a general brand new item. It's not a sub item to anything. So in this case, it's just a straightforward service. Okay. And then you have the option here. Now there's this little thing right here that this service is using an assembly or what's called a 1099 worker, right? It's subcontracted labor. So in this case, my photo sessions are not going to be using that. So you don't need to check mark this. This is more pertinent when we do actually dive into chapter 2 and chapter 4. Actually, more so for chapter 2. Because it's dealing with the sales process. So once again, I'll talk about that later. But right now, they just want you to introduce you to what items are. In this case, my description should say photo session services. Okay. Straightforward. Okay, and then you can deem it as you could say that descriptions, you can add as much details as you'd like. It doesn't have to be specific. You could say that this is a photo session, right? And you can deem it as it's an hourly photo session or, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Pricing or rate in this case, right? So this is what you can charge your customers at. So when we talk about chapter 2, when we actually look at setting prices, right? When we do this and we take a look at entering, charging our customers, if you set a price point, therefore every time you use that item, it's going to automatically do it for you. You don't need to enter in any more details. Okay? So in this case, I'm going to charge $95 per photo session. Okay? And in this case, the book is actually incorrect on this because it is a service. You actually don't charge tax. Okay? So if you actually click on the drop-down menu, it gives you your service as an item. Now, what are these little things that you see here? Tax, government, NFP, OOS. So these are your sales tax codes. Okay? And again, we will take more in-depth look in this in chapter 3. But sales tax codes is very important because especially when you're dealing with either a certain products that you sell or certain groups of individuals that you sell these products to. So if they are a government person, so anybody that's army or military, they get to take advantage of that government special tax. Again, non-for-profits get also special tax. Out of state is very important, especially if you do your services out of state. You have to charge them based on the state that they reside in. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in chapter 2 and chapter 3. So that's definitely important. If since this is in California, if I were to do this in Nevada, I have to do it according to whatever the state that the person is asking the service from or buying the product from. Okay. Other things too is that right, if you have a service, usually you don't get it. It's tax exempt, right? Because you don't charge for services. Because it in other sense, services are also, you can earn extra for it by, it could be tips based. But other than that, those are usually the sales tax codes. Once again, if you're a grocery store, you'll have that perishable foods tax exempt type of sales tax code. So in this case, in your book, it says that you're supposed to tax it, but I'm going to tell you now, services can never be taxed because you're not getting a product, right? You cannot charge for human labor. You cannot charge tax for human labor, all right? And services are 100% based on the time, most of the time, okay? So then now the next thing is to associate the account. Now in this case, once again, you have to have the account for QuickBooks to recognize what account you're linking this particular item to. So in this case, if I go ahead and type in there, I have two options, right? I just typed in S. So notice this, I don't have to do anything here. All I did was typed in an S. And it's automatically going to try to figure out what I am looking for. So that's a great thing about QuickBooks is once you've entered in everything, I've entered in my chart of accounts, right? By just typing the letter S, it's going to what's called autofill, or it's going to predict what the next letter you're going to be looking for, or it's going to automatically search things up for you. So it makes it easier to keep track of your own records, to keep track of what accounts you have, but at the same time, it makes it so much easier, especially if you're a corporation and you're dealing with millions of accounts. I just typed in an S, and it automatically pulled up all of these accounts that start with S. So in this case, this is a service, okay? It's not a sale because we didn't sell a product. It was a service that we are providing. So there you go. I linked it there. Now notice this. Everything that you create a new item for, you have this little button. It's hidden in every single section that you create your item for, and it says that you want to make this item inactive. So again, it appears on every single form that when you create a new item for, or a new list, a new customer, anything that you create new for, you'll see this hidden somewhere. Okay. So once again, there you go. I created my service item, and then I go ahead and click OK. So there it is. Now, when I bill my customers, or I invoice them, right? If I select this item here, it's going to appear on their form, and I can go ahead and ship it to them. And once I validate that my invoice has been completed, the accounting in the background is going to do the work for you. It's going to say, okay, you sold a service, right? Or you provided a service. And then if you're invoicing, right, you're basically saying that the customer owes you money. So behind the scenes, it's going to automatically link that to your the service account that you linked it to, as well as it's going to also link into your the cash that you received or the accounts receivable, because you're creating an invoice. There, you're saying that such that they owe you the money. Okay. Any questions in regards to entering in an item?
No.
Okay, so right now it is 10:12 right now.